This next section we'll be covering printing to darker garments, or basically printing with white ink. When you view a color of a shirt and you're trying to consider, do I or do I not need to use white ink on it? It all depends on the graphic that you're printing on top of the shirt. Say you wanted to print the color yellow-blue or royal blue to a canary yellow shirt. With the light color printing that we did in the previous section, the ink absorbs into the cotton. So when you don't use white ink, it means that you can print colors like black or a darker color to a lighter color and those type of things. But if I go back to printing like a royal blue to a yellow shirt, if I did not underbase that, the color blue would mix with the yellow and it would turn green. So you have to worry about those primary colors and colors mixing. So in that case, yes, I would have to underbase that garment. So that way the blue does not mix with the green fabric color. Alright? When we're choosing shirts for printing with white ink and things, it is very important to choose shirts that are natural fibers, just like with the white ink shirts, because we are using the water-based inks. We are going to be doing 2 passes of ink, a white underbase and then color on top of it. So when it comes to that, I have to make sure to choose fabrics that are not real rigid. Also, it doesn't have like a corduroy nap to it where it has hills and valleys, because that will affect how smooth that white ink looks. It'll actually let the shirt color come through it. The shirts that I like using are the real tight weaves, the little bit more of the fashion fits, the lighter ounces and things like that. It will take some practice, and you probably will have to order some different manufacturer type shirts to figure out which one best work for you. Alright, so what we're going to go do now is we have to prepare our shirt for white ink printing. Unlike our light color or non-white ink printing shirts, we do have to pre-treat this every time I use white ink. What will happen is the white ink will actually absorb into the cotton just like the color ink does. So by pre-treating it, it allows the white ink to sit on top of the fabric instead of absorbing in. So we'll go back here and we'll head back to our pre-treatment booth that we have set up and give you a couple suggestions from there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is actually pre-press and pre-treat the shirt to get it ready for a white ink print. So we created a little spray booth here. This is a little excessive, but we do a lot of printing here at ColDesi. So the basic premise of what you're trying to do is create walls in the back and the sides, so that way that it can catch the overspray so it doesn't mess up the room that you're pre-treating in. I also like to use a base to wrap the shirt around. The size that I use is basically the size of my heat press. So that way when I pre-treat this, it's going to I can cover up the entire area that's going to be printed to it. So what I'll do is place my shirt up here, make sure it's nice and smooth, spread the shirt out. Alright, and we do have our sprayer here, set up just like we did before. And what I like to do is to start the sprayer, prime it up off of the side of the machine, to get it kind of running, get this little nozzle tip primed up. I will start off of the side and finish off the side. About as far away as I hold the sprayer from the shirt is about the width of my band. So I'll do 2 bands horizontally, then I'll flip the gun sideways and do 2 bands vertically. I'm going to tilt the gun sideways. I do use 2 hands to do this, 2 fingers to depress the trigger, because if I use one and only depress it a little, nothing comes out. You have to depress it all the way, and then it sprays. So then I'll flip the gun sideways, start up at the top, and what I'm looking for, if I have a little gloober or something on the shirt, just pick that off, and what I'm looking for is the fuzz to start to show up on the actual garment. It's not to the point where it's actually wet and dripping. It's before that. Another little tool that we can use is if we go up to Home Depot and get one of these little foam rollers, what it does is help even out the pre-treatment as I roll it. You notice that it's not leaving streaks or anything like that. It's just basically making the fabric a little bit darker. I'm not using hardly any pressure. I'm just rolling over top of it, kind of evening out the pre-treat as I go. And that's pre-treating. So we'll take the shirt over to our heat press. So after we've pre-treated our shirt, it is very important that we come over and pre-press the shirt. Reason being for that is cotton by its nature is a very fuzzy material. If we tried to print to this without pre-pressing it, those fuzzes would still be standing up and it would be coated with white ink. So then that fuzz is now white. And then when it comes back over and prints the color, that fuzz is still sticking up. And then when we cure, it'll fold over when we press it and it'll leave little white speckles in our image. So, just like before, I'm going to put this up here, collar off of the edge. I definitely like using release paper or my Teflon sheet for this. The release paper works a little bit better so it won't make the pre-treatment as shiny. I will press it for about 45 seconds to a minute, and what it's basically doing is drying the shirt, matting down those fibers so it makes it into a smooth surface for both layers of ink to print on. Once we get to that 45 seconds, I will pop the heat press up manually. It's pretty easy to do if you're using the Geonite DK20. This is an automatic release, so it has an electromagnet on it. So I'll have to manually release that. To do that, it's pretty simple. You push down on one corner and push up on the other. It comes up really smoothly. But when I take off my release paper, I do want to make sure that I do it a proper way and notice a couple things. If I peel this and it actually peels off, then I need to press it for a couple more seconds because that peeling action is wicking those fibers back up. And if it did, I would just flip over my paper, lay it back down, hit it for about 10 more seconds, and then it should slide off smoothly. And now we have a pre-prepped shirt ready for printing. So the next thing we're going to discuss is why pre-treatment and pre-pressing is very important. What I've done with this shirt is pre-treat an excessive amount on top. You can see how glossy the shirt actually gets. If you're starting to get a lot of glossy and it's stiffening up the fabric, you're probably on the higher end of the pre-treat. Okay? And then down here at the bottom, I didn't pre-treat at all, but I did only press half the shirt. So this side has excessive pre-treatment and it's pressed. This is excessive pre-treatment with no pressing. No pre-treatment down here, half pressed, half not pressed. We're going to place this up here on the garment, or the machine, and we're going to print something so that way you can see how the print quality is affected with poor treatment versus good pre-treatment. Okay. As before, click into the machine. Load it until it gets to the ready state. And only when the light goes green can I send my print job over. So what we're going to do now is choose a graphic that is going to be a little bit larger so that way I can kind of demonstrate what bad pre-treatment versus good pre-treatment does. So I'm definitely, since I'm printing to a black shirt, I'm going to choose my black quality cue. I'm going to add my design in. Click on open. It'll import it into my first template that's available, which will be this slot right here. Once the design goes in, minus that out so I can see it a little bit better. I can click on the image even though the preview hasn't come up, and I can still do my sizing. I can drag it from the corners or do it by a particular measurement down here at the bottom. So once I have it placed, I'm going to right click and hit print. Take our pre-treated shirt that we did properly before during the pre-treatment section of the videos, and we're going to place this on our platen. Just like we did with our white shirts and non-white ink printing, we will take this up here. What's kind of good about the dark shirts, they've been pre-pressed so they're nice and smooth. So, same as before, I'll take the corners of my sleeves, slide the collar right off the edge of the shirt, or as much as I need, square it up in the bottom. I'll anchor up the top, and I'm just doing a little bit at a time, just going around to kind of spread the shirt. I don't want to stretch it or skew it. Making sure that tag doesn't stick up. Then I'll come down here to the bottom, kind of press up as I go, not stretching it or just keeping it taut. Then go up the sides, both hands directly across from each other, doing a little bit at a time, making sure that it's not skewing. Alright? Another thing that I want to kind of keep away from and getting a good habit is not taking my hand and smoothing across this pre-treated shirt, because you take that chance of wicking those fibers back up if they're pressed in a different direction. So once I have it nice and taut, take the excess, tuck it underneath, making sure that none of the corners stick up. Tuck in as much as I need to get the job done. And then I'll spin the shirt around backwards and slide it onto our machine, making sure that it hits these posts down here at the bottom so it's nice and level. Alright, I'll manually push it in just so that leading edge of the platen is inside this cover, so that way our gapping lasers hit the shirt. And we'll come over, hit the up button until it stops, then let go, and now it's at the proper gap for bidirectional ink printing. Then I'll come back over here to this side, hit load, it'll draw the shirt into the machine until it gets to the ready position. We're able to send the print job over only when this light goes green. Alright, so now we're coming over to the computer. I'm going to print that same graphic that I did during our pre-treatment video for this series. So that way you see what a properly pre-treated shirt and a properly pre-pressed shirt will look versus the ones that are not. So this one has already been spooled. The cool thing about our RIP software, once you rip a job beforehand, it'll save that spooled file, so that way I don't have to re-rip it every time I want to reprint it. So what I'll do is just come up here, click on the job, and hit the print button. Or I can right click on the job and hit print from here as well. So what it's going to do now is to print our underbase. What you're looking for while this is printing is that the white ink is nice and smooth, that it's not absorbing into the shirt. It should be sitting up on top of the fabric, and it should almost have a wet appearance. And if you have a little bit too much pre-treatment, then it will have a tendency to puddle up a little bit. But it should congeal and harden before it starts printing the color. As you can see, the white ink is nice and consistent across the shirt. It's not absorbing into the shirt, and it's a nice, smooth white. So as it gets towards the base of the white layer, you'll notice up here at the top that the white ink is nice and congealed. It's not wet to the touch, but it is kind of shiny. This is what you're looking for. If you had an excessive amount of pre-treatment, if it's printed that much of a page length and it is still not congealed, you have way too much pre-treatment on the shirt. It should be a nice, flat, even surface for the color to go on top of. So once it has completed this underbase, the machine will automatically draw the shirt back in and start printing the color on top of the white. Now that the shirt has finished printing, we can take it off. And just like before, we want to make sure that the shirt doesn't fold over on itself, transferring ink or smearing or anything like that. The good thing about printing with a pre-treated shirt in white ink, that the ink kind of hardens, so it's not like you can sit there and just lightly brush it and have ink stick to your fingers. It would be more of a smear type thing. But just like before, I want to pull it off from the bottom first, pull it out from the sides, and then pick it up from the shoulders to take it over to my heat press. So now that the shirt is finished printing, I'm going to place it up here on my heat press, making sure that the collar's not up there, and that it'll be covered up by everything. Now, a couple things. Since the white ink sits on top of the fabric, we have the ability to give the ink a finish, meaning that depending on what paper you use to actually cure this with, it'll actually take on its finish. If we use the Teflon sheet, it'll give it an ultra glossy finish, sort of like the actual Teflon sheet looks in itself. If we use the release paper that we sell with at Coleman & Company, it'll give it a semi-shiny, as you can see with the reflections. Me personally, I like using parchment paper from our local grocery store. Alright, what it'll do is give it a smooth matte finish, which gives it a unique finish comparison to screen printing or something to that order. Just like before, I'll try to pop it straight down onto the shirt, covering up the ink. And then I will press this instead of 3 minutes, I will go to, instead of 2 minutes, I will go to 3 minutes. Still at the same temperature of 340 degrees. I'm going to place this down, it'll start the timer. And once this pops up, we'll have a finished product. Even though your temperature may fluctuate, as long as you stay at 340, it will heat itself back up. The major thing is to start at 340. What the heating process is doing is basically expanding the molecules of the ink and hardening them so that way they bond with the fabric. This assures our washability and also the longevity of our prints on our shirts. So once it gets closer to the time, the heat press will give you a warning. It'll beep 3 times, and then the automatic release will release the electromagnet, and it will pop up the heat press. I like to put my hand on it so that way it doesn't pop up. But if you're not standing right next to it, it'll pop open and it'll be ready. So we'll take our parchment paper, pull it off, and now we have a finished product. It has a nice smooth texture to it, unlike screen printing, which will have more of a rougher hand. You can give the shirt or the ink the texture of a screen print as well if you hover the heat press. Hovering the heat press basically closes it without actually touching the shirt. So instead of pressing it all the way down, what I'll use is this little block right here and just attach it right to the magnet. As you can see, down here at the base, it doesn't actually touch the base of the shirt. We'll do that for probably 1 to 2 minutes, and it'll harden the ink, and then I will raise it up, put my parchment paper back down, and then do the curing for the full 3 minutes, and it will give it a little bit rougher of a hand.